Hello everyone and welcome to the Mediocre Games review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. The way I'll do this review is first of all give you my thoughts of it just generally, then I'm going to be going in depth into things I liked and things I did not like, and then I'll give a score at the end. This is a warning, this is a spoiler filled review, so if you have not watched the movie then please do not watch this quite yet. Come back once you've watched it and we can discuss in the comments below. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, my overall thoughts of the film? It's great. The Force Awakens is a Star Wars movie first, before anything else. It has the feel of the Star Wars, which is greatly helped by the practical effects. And because of the practical effects, it also had a bit of a weight to it, which I'll get into a bit more later on. But I thought the characters were great, the chemistry, and God, Han Solo, Harrison Ford was perfect. Carrie Fisher did well as Leia, but the new cast really stole the show. And my favourite character, Poe Dameron, who isn't in it as much, but is still in it for a fair amount. But honestly, the feel of Star Wars is back, and we'll start off with the things I liked about the movie, and then we'll get on to my gripes a bit later. We'll start off with the first scene in the movie, which I think sets up the tone of the film perfectly. You have Poe Dameron talking to Max von Sydow's character, all about the mysticism of surrounding Luke, which sets up the Force, and then you get the First Order showing up. They actually seem very menacing at this point, and it is only strengthened when Kylo Ren comes down, and basically just straight up kills Max von Sydow. Then Poe's reaction's great, he tries to fire a bolt, Kylo Ren actually catches the bolt mid-air, and then just after that, it's great. Poe Dameron starts saying some jokes like, oh, do you talk first or do I? Those jokes are great. It reminds you so much of the original trilogy. It honestly sets up the tone perfectly. So we'll start off with the cast. We've got Daisy Ridley as Rey, Oscar Isaac as Poe, and John Boyega as Finn. Performance-wise, they're great. Character-wise, they're great as well, other than Finn for me. I have a little gripe with his character, but performance-wise, solid performances. I think Daisy Ridley actually is one of the best actors in the film, and considering that she's never acted before this thing anyway, I think it's absolutely amazing. But the one gripe I have with Finn's character is he goes from the First Order, which is a very militaristic, very hard regime, to kind of going to one battle, freaking out, and then just being like a regular guy in the universe, where I think he should have been a little bit more militaristic. But that's just a little gripe. I think it was a design choice so that the chemistry between Rey and Finn would work better, because if he was a very hard militaristic person, I don't think the chemistry and the banter would have been as good. But that's the only gripe I have. All the performances were great. Harrison Ford in particular as Han Solo was great. He reprised his role. It was actually like watching Han Solo, not Harrison Ford. And then obviously Luke is in the movie. I'm not going to say too much about his role. Even though this is a spoiler review, I think that's something that I want to save anyway, just in case people are watching this without watching the film. So that's the only thing I have with that. Leia with Carrie Fisher, I thought that was a bit of a... That could have gone either way, but no, it went very well as well. There are other things I want to get into as well, like the mysticism of the Force. That is back. It's not a midichlorian count. It is this wonderful, like, mystos of, like... Just before I go off the characters, I want to say Poe Dameron is my favourite character. I think Oscar Isaac is a great actor as well, but just the character of this really cool best pilot in the galaxy. He reminds me a bit of Han, but he's also not quite as reluctant and cocky as Han, but he still is sure of himself, which I really like. And my favourite scene actually includes him, which is when they're on the planet with Maz Kanata, and it's that one continuous shot of Poe in the X-Wing firing down TIE fighters. I think that was a great shot. It really showed that he was a great pilot. And I think that's just something to the prequels, when they were trying to show that Anakin was a great pilot. It didn't really show. But with this, we know immediately that Poe is this great pilot, which is also shown a little bit with the TIE fighter scene with him and Finn in the beginning, but not quite as much as that. that's it for the characters. There are other things that I love as well. So when you watch these actors on the screen, they actually feel like characters. They actually have motivations, feelings about the situations around them. It's not like they're robotic people that have to fit the story, a bit like the prequels. They actually have motivations and stuff, which I think is actually great. Like, I think Kylo Ren in particular is a very compelling character. He has a lot of conflict. He was like getting pulled by the light, which is something we haven't really seen too much. It's usually the sway to the dark, but this time around it's actually a sway to the light. And to go completely dark, he has to confront his father, which in the final act of the movie, I think it was a great emotional scene. There's another thing I also love, which is the trailers. By looking at the trailers, I thought I could post it in chronological order and understand what part of the acts the films were from, but they were cut in such a way that it was pretty much the first part of the movie, just cut in a very good way, which made me think it was all over the place, which I think is absolutely wonderful. The tone in the movie in particular I thought was great. It's quite a dark tone for a Star Wars film, especially a first Star Wars film. This is very reminiscent of Empire in tone, but it had a lot of comedy in it. I think one of my favourite parts is actually when Rey and Finn and BB-8 are on the Millennium Falcon, and basically he's trying to persuade BB-8 to not, like, just tell about the Resistance base, and the little thumbs up with the lighter. That was perfect. And speaking of BB-8, I think his character was done perfectly. I was worried that it was going to be a little bit too cheesy, but luckily I think it was perfect the way that they did the droid. So that was pretty much it for my positives. Overall, I think just the movie is a great movie. I think they didn't really go wrong too much. It was very safe, which I'll get into the things I had issues with. But overall, I think music, story, everything was just spot on. There were just a few issues that are more of nitpicks than anything, but we'll get into that now. So the first thing I have an issue with is, although I said the mysticism of the Force is back, and that is absolutely great, I found it a little bit weird how Kylo was trained like Knight of Ren. He bests Finn easily, but then Rey somehow just taps into the Force and is able to overpower Kylo. And I know the arguments are, oh, he's injured, as well as he's not fully trained, as we can hear with Snoke at the end of the film about bringing him back for training. And there is also the theory that Rey is actually a Skywalker and is already trained and kind of got, like, I don't know, Men in Black, like, memory wiped. I don't know if she just tapped into the Force and remembered some of her training, but even so, I feel like it was a little bit too convenient. That was the only thing I had an issue there with. Another one was the fact that this was very, very reminiscent of A New Hope. This is kind of like New Hope Mark II, kind of bigger, better, with Starkiller Base being a 5 times the size of the Death Star, 5 times. It was still a Death Star, still had a trench run. But I think the positive from that is they had to do this to get fans back on board with the movie. They had to play it safe for the storyline, just to get people to be like, no, Star Wars is back. The feeling of Star Wars is here. I'm okay. I'm on board to see the next 2 films. Whereas if they went adventurous, it could have been even better, don't get me wrong. But it also run the risk of being a terrible movie. So I'm glad that they did play it safe. I mean, the movie was still good, so I'm not going to complain too much. But there's a few other things I have issue with as well. For one, it's the fact that, like, the Republic kind of just got brushed under the rug. They didn't get any exposition on it, so we don't really know what the Republic was, what the planets were. It kind of just got destroyed. And I find it was a bit weird. A weird design choice, definitely. I would have thought they would have explained it a bit more. I mean, why is there a Resistance and a Republic? I have no clue. Not like, but let's only gripe over that as well. Also, the treatment of Captain Phasma. I thought that Captain Phasma was going to be a pivotal character in the film. Obviously not. She was only in it for like a couple of scenes. That annoyed me a little bit. But the problems I have might be explained in the next movie, and I think that's the thing everyone's got to consider with the gripes of the movie is, other than the fact that it's very reminiscent of New Hope, is that this is part of a new trilogy, and some things might be explained in the later films. But overall, as a film, I feel it should have had a little bit more exposition to explain some things a bit more clearly. But other than that, I would probably give Star Wars The Force Awakens an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a great movie. The only drawback is it's a safe storyline, and there's a couple of nitpicks I have which don't really affect the score too much, because there are other movies which might explain these nitpicks, and the fact that it was trying to fit 30 years of lore and establish new characters in one film. Well, that's it for my review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Did you like what you saw? Please subscribe. Also, give it a like if you want. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so that would be greatly appreciated. Please, if you enjoyed it, tune in for the next episode as well. Remember, stay active, and I'll see you next time.